from the Section 420, Talkin Yankees. The offseason. And as the temperatures begin to freeze, well, comes the fun stuff. Free agency, hot stove, all of that we'll get into, the trades, who they should go after, who they should let go, what starting pitcher they should perhaps pursue. And then after that, we get a little something a little fun. And a very underappreciated Yankee. And since, 2019 is almost out the door, we're going to look at number 9, Roger Maris, number 9. So I mentioned last episode, Chapman will be staying with the Yankees. Now, if you may remember, in 2017, he signed a 5-year deal, which he could have opted out after the 3rd year. So if Chapman wanted to, he could have opted out and said, goodbye. But he decided to stay. So now the Yankees owe him 2 more years. So he's going to get 15, 30 mil. And to entice him to stay, they added 1 more year onto the deal for 18 mil. So he's got 48 million reasons to stay with the Yankees. And I think it's a good move. He's still one of the top closers in baseball. Only 31 years old, so he still got some prime Chapman years with him. Okay, maybe he's not going to throw 105, but again, if he could throw 99 and now he's using that slider more, he's still going to be effective, and I think it's a great move by the Yankees. On the other hand, the Yankees declined the option on Didi Gregorius, making Didi now a free agent, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. He's 29 years old. I know he didn't have the greatest season. You look at all his numbers, he was hurt a little bit, but still, he's going to be sought after. Great power, great defense, left-handed, especially for Yankee Stadium. But other teams are going to want him as well, so there's going to be a lot of competition for Didi. So interesting how it plays out. Now, I think they would like to have him back. I just think they like him, the person, the clubhouse chemistry, all that. He's just one of the guys, and plus, his tweets after the game and hashtags start spreading the news and all that stuff. So I think they like Didi in that regard. But again, as I mentioned in previous episodes, they're not forced to take him back because you could just easily insert Gleyber Torres there as a shortstop, who is a natural shortstop to begin with, and you have DJ LeMahieu at second base, and there you go. And then again, even if Andujar comes back and you can play around a little bit, all right, then you put Andujar at third a little bit and move Gio Urshela to give LeMahieu a day off and have him play second base. And that's just the benefit of having these guys who can play multiple positions. So I just think it's going to take longer because, Didi, there's going to be teams offering probably a 5-6 year deal, and Yankees are going to have to kind of compete with that. So we'll see. He's only 29, so if you do give him a 5-6 year deal, it's not terrible. So I think overall he most likely comes back, but there's a chance he doesn't. And again, the Yankees don't have to take Didi back. Now, Brett Gardner, there's been a little more talk that at least there's some negotiation going on there because he's a less complicated situation. He's 36 years old. It's not going to be, some teams may have interest in him, but pretty much it seems like it'll only be the Yankees. So as long as they give him a fair market deal, and look, he had his best, in terms of power hitting, he had his best year ever for the Yankees. He was reliable. Again, he pretty much played the whole season. He was only supposed to has time cut down by both Hicks and Frazier, but that really didn't happen. Gardner was amazing. So I think it benefits the Yankees to bring him back. I think he would want to come back. And, he's not going to ask for probably like a 4-year deal. He's probably going to want a 1- and 2-year deal. So, maybe if you get one good year out of Gardner and maybe have to, throw one on this to make him happy, or fine, you can always cut him later. So I think Gardner definitely gets done. Didi probably does, but it's going to be much more complicated. The Yankees also declined the option on the Parrot, unfortunately. Yes, he became a fan favorite, but they were just going to kind of let him go. He was brought in as a mercenary. Again, he was great for the Yankees, and everyone liked the whole Parrot shtick and the whole deal, but he's a clunky, DH first baseman type. The Yankees have enough of that already with Voit, and maybe if Bird comes back, there's really no room for everyone right now. And again, he's a mercenary type player, so he'll land on his feet somewhere. He'll get a contract, and who knows? Next season, midway, maybe the Yankees does have the same issue where everyone's hurt and you need a guy like that. You could pick up something like that easily, or or like a Cameron Maybin who also is going to depart. Now, the one unfortunate one, unfortunate, is going to be Austin Romine. He's finally hit free agency now. He's a very competent, he's backup for the Yankees, but he could probably start for, more than half of the teams out there. So I think he'll get a starting job somewhere else. I just don't think the Yankees are going to play a high price, for a backup catcher. And plus, we got Higgy in the waiting in the rings. And kind of, I want Romine to go. I want him to be a full-time player, so I would hate to see him leave. But look, he's just going to be blocked there by Gary Sanchez. And you don't want Sanchez hurt. You want him as a catcher. And this Romine, his skills shouldn't be wasted on the bench. He should go up, be starting for a team. So as long as it's like the Cincinnati Reds or something, God bless. I hope he gets a starting job and becomes like, the best catcher in the National League. And somewhat surprisingly, Aaron Boone was snubbed for the Manager of the Year award. Yes, he won 103 games against the New York Yankees, but if you remember, the entire squad was on the injury list. The backups to the backups to the backups to the backups were disabled, and still somehow he got 103 wins out of his team. Actually went to Rocco Baldelli of the Twins, which I understand that no one's expecting them to win 101 games, and yes, of course, they don't have the payroll of the Yankees. We understand the whole field, but I feel Boone really deserved it. What he did with the squad, pretty much you had Mike Topman, Mike Ford coming up here and winning games for the Yankees, and it's just, to I just think because he's a Yankee, and they figure, oh, the Yankees have billions of dollars, they have all these championships and stuff. So I think he got a raw deal on that one. He really deserved it. I mean, it could have been so easy for the team to sort of just collapse and have like a team like Tampa overtake them in the AL East. That didn't happen. I mean, the Yankees pretty much had to lead it the whole way in cruise control. Even all these players like Judge and Didi and all these players going down one after one, he kept the team afloat the whole way. No panic like that. And I just felt Boone would have deserved it. So, I can think of K last, but it just kind of reminds me what happened back in 2006 with Derek Jeter and also another twin, Justin Morneau. Jeter really should have gotten the MVP that year, but we think, well, because he's a Yankee, he has all these accolades, let's give it to the Midwest, little Midwest Minnesota people, Morneau. So, similar thing happened here. So, politics. And speaking about managers, old friend Joe Girardi finally landed on his feet. Signed now, he's going to be the new manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. So congratulations on him. Happy he got a job. He's working again. He's not really going to be competing against the Yankees. And the best thing, he gets to torture the Mets for 18 games this season. So that's pretty good. Now, also with the Mets, a little news with them. They also hired a new manager, Carlos Beltran. A little surprising, but not surprising. In fact, the Yankees were considering him a couple years ago before they, when they finally decided to go with Aaron Boone. But he was kind of in the mix there. Maybe they feel just a little too young, but supposedly all the players like him. He's just a personal guy. A lot of people go to him advice. So I think that'll be working out. That should be good for the Mets. The only thing with him, obviously the lasting memory of Beltran as a player for the Mets is going to be that called third strike by Adam Wainwright, right down the plate that he got caught looking third strike. But so he was going to get a lot of that at the beginning, but then eventually once the season plays out, it'll be about the manager. So congrats to him as well. Now with the Yankees, they let Larry Rothschild go, the longtime pitching coach. Now Girardi bought him in 2011, so he was never actually a Boone guy, and I think any of those moves was probably made by Cashman. But I figured the season, they went to a Game 6 in the ALCS, but I guess someone had to pay, so maybe it was Larry Rothschild. Who knows about that? I mean, he did sort of turn around Paxton this season. He did turn around Tanaka, change the grip on the slider and all that stuff. But I guess it didn't matter. Someone had to be sacrificed for the failure to win the World Series. So it was Larry. But he actually found the job right away. He was with the San Diego Padres. So good news for him. It's not like he's still in baseball. Now the Yankees' new pitching coach is this young guy, Matt Blake, only 33 years old. So he's kind of I don't think I've ever heard of a pitching coach that young. In fact, he's going to be younger than some of the pitchers on the roster probably. But he's supposed to be like one of these analytics gurus, and also he studies a lot of film, so he knows what angles that pitchers throw the ball that should avoid them getting hurt and make the pitches most effective. So I think Cashman likes them, just like the analytics part of it. So that's pretty much all baseball is like that now, but specifically Cashman loves analytics and stats, and this Matt Blake guy is a stat guy. So let's see how it works out. Maybe you could get Severino to get a full healthy season out of Severino. Maybe get Paxton to sort of take the next level in his career. And Domingo Germano, we're not sure where he's going to land, the season, if he's going to get suspended or not. We'll get into that a little later. But again, he can prove on some of these young pitchers. And another snub has been DJ LeMahieu for the MVP. Actually came up in fourth in the voting. If anything, I said, all right, he's not going to win it, maybe be second, but fourth. They put Bregman and, Mike Trout won it, but they put Bregman on top of him. If you look at DJ LeMahieu for the season for the Yankees, I mean, not even the numbers, but a season where the entire roster was injured at some point. He was really the only steady Eddie there the entire way. Pretty much, took his game to another level. The Yankees did not realize they would get this sort of production out of him, and he did it for a first-place team that went to the ALCS. Whereas Mike Trout, again, his numbers are tremendous. I understand why they would pick him, but he's doing it for the Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels or the California Angels. It's a franchise that's in last place, no one cares about. They change their name every 4 or 5 years. I think they're the Los Angeles Angels right now, but that could change next week. Whereas DJ LeMahieu was doing all this stuff for a first place team that went to the playoffs, so it was a bad snub. Now look, if you didn't get first place, I understand that, but at least put him second, fourth. But at least DJ is getting some form of trophy, winning the Silver Slugger Award as a second baseman, the best hitting second baseman. That would be a no-brainer at least. And Aaron Judge getting the Defensive Player of the Year in right field for his work in right field. Jumping up, stealing home runs, using his rocket arm, throw runners out, making diving catches. So at least they got some taste of some gold, but a World Series would have been a little nicer. And on the business side, the New York Yankees, as well as MLB and Nike, reached an agreement to allow the mom and pop shop here on River Avenue to continue to sell Yankee merchandise. Originally, that they were going to disband that, and they only wanted to sell their merchandise in high-profile areas, which would have been inside Yankee Stadium only. But of course, the local community got involved and allowed the shops to continue to sell Yankee merchandise, which would have put them out of business. So good for the shops. And the big news of the day: the Houston Astros were accused of stealing signs with electronic equipment help back in 2017. It's okay to steal signs. They've been doing it forever in baseball, but as long as it's a human being, usually like someone will be off second base here. They'll kind of see what the catch is throwing down, curveball, breaking ball, kind of relay a message either to the batter somehow. They'll touch this, they'll touch that, they'll do some signal. That's been going back since the early 1900s. That's no big deal. But you can't use technology. Now, in 2017, the Boston Red Sox were also busted using their smart watches, to steal signs. Now, what's alleged with the Houston Astros is supposedly they had a camera way out in center field, would sort of be able to have you know how Minute Maid Park is. You got the train there, you got all these obstructions, especially a lot of these new ballparks, all these funky things out there. You could slip a camera anywhere, look at the catcher's sign, and then somehow relaying that message to the dugout. And then in the dugout, what they would do is they would have a garbage can that they would smash. That means like a breaking pitch, curveball or slider was coming. So supposedly they did this back in 2017. Now, how the story actually broke was current Oakland A's pitcher Mike Fears, who was with the Astros at the time, and him and 3 other sources confirmed that this is what the Astros did. So they were cheating, pretty much. I mean, he admitted he was on the teammate. So I don't know if I have any proof of this. Obviously, MLB is looking into it. It's 2 years ago. I don't know how you find them. You can't take back their championship. But it is kind of interesting because even this past, ALCS, with the Yankees, supposedly Aaron Boone and Phil Nevin, third base coach, was getting into it with the Houston Astros bench, basically, drawing back and forth that their third base coach was stealing signs. So again, this happens all the time in the baseball. But again, when you have used technology, that takes it to a whole other level. So it's gonna be interesting how it plays out. It's hard to prove that they did it, but it is interesting that when the Yankees did play the Houston Astros in that 2017 ALCS, the Yankees lost all the road games there. Except when the Astros came here, they were like a completely different team. The Yankees, Yankees had no problem handling all 3 games at Yankee Stadium. But then once the Yankees went back to Houston, they lost games 6 and 7. So were they stealing signs during that series? Who knows? I'm sure the Yankees are going to look at it. Maybe MLB is going to look at it. But actually, it's almost good for the Astros that this is happening to them. Not only did they lose to the Nationals, this comes out against them. And even someone like Justin Verlander, who always seemed like invincible in the playoffs, he was kind of touched up a little bit, both by Tampa and the Yankees. So that cloak of invincibility is gone. They lose, Garrett Cole's going to go to free agency, so they're going to lose him. They're still going to have a good team, a great team next season. But, he's seeing, a little tainted now, and some of the pieces are starting to drop off. And maybe it's finally the Yankees' time to shine in 2020. But in terms of free agency, this year, it's all this hot stove talk is all going to be about pitching. Now, last season, it was all about the hitting. We had Bryce Harper, you had Manny Machado, big money contracts. This year now, you have 3 major aces out there: Garrett Cole, Steven Strasburg, fresh off a World Series win, and of course Madison Bumgarner, who been injury paid last few seasons, but has a great postseason resume. A left-hander, only 30 years old, so. Cashman's going to be reaching out to these folks, talking to them now. If you remember, Garrett Cole, originally back in the day, the Yankees actually drafted him, but he declined go to college. Why would you want to get an education? It doesn't make sense. But anyway, but the Yankees always had their eye on him, and then even last season there were rumors they would possibly get Clint Frazier him. That never happened. So the Yankees always had their eye on him, so this might be finally a chance they do get him. Now, he's a California guy, and the word is that the Angels, who just have a ton of money, and it's his home, is where he lives. He might side with that. If they just throw a boatload of money, it'll be fine. Now, CeCe Sabathia, not with the Yankees anymore, but of course a Yankee at heart, he reached out to him because CeCe's a Cali guy. He's talked to Coles, to try to say, hey, I know you're a Cali guy, but you come here to New York, it won't be as bad as you think, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure he'll be part of the recruiting effort. We'll see how that pans out. Steven Strasburg, I like he's a good pitcher, but the first few seasons always injured a lot. And it just seems like, he saved his best for the World Series, and then kind of after that I can see a little decline. He's always going to be good, but I just see like he's rose at that moment. He'll get his big paycheck, and he'll never be as good as that in that World Series. So I wouldn't be in a rush to get him. Cole, I feel like he's just going to, the price tag on him is going to be so high. I don't know if you want to go there. The play that might make the most sense, I think I would like, was Madison Bumgarner. A left-hander at first for a left-hander at Yankee Stadium. You always want that. And only 30 years old, still relatively young, but he has a ton of postseason experience already. He has like a microscopic ERA. And I know he's been hurt the past few seasons, but he's been on a Giants team that's kind of been in the NL. I think if you put him in a situation like the Yankees, he would flourish. Now, this past trade deadline, he actually had the Yankees on a team that he didn't want to be traded to. So I don't know what reason he had for that, but possibly if you just roll a significant amount of money to him, I think he'll warm up to New York. I'd rather have him over the other two. I just like the left-hander at Yankee Stadium. Garrett Cole, again, he'll be awesome, he'll be great, but a guy like that, maybe it's 2 or 3 years, and then once he loses the fastball, he's not the same again. A lefty like Madison Bumgarner, he doesn't have to throw hard to get people out, and that's someone I'd rather have, for a longer term. And we'll keep you posted as these off-season developments come along. But now I want to get to a very underappreciated Yankee, Roger Maris. Three-time world champion, seven-time All-Star, two-time MVP in back-to-back seasons, 1960 and 1961, plus the 1961 Player of the Year. 1960 got a Gold Glove for his work in right field, and lastly, for 37 seasons, held the single record for most home runs in a single season, which was broken unfortunately in '98. But still, no one gives any love to Roger. They talk about Babe Ruth, they talk about DiMaggio, Mantle, of course, Whitey Ford, even Don Lawson gets a lot of love, but no one talks about Roger. Why is that? Born September 10th, 1934, Roger Eugene Maraz. Now, originally the name was spelled M-A-R-A-S. The family is of Croatian descent. But the father changed the name, the surname, to Maris as we know it today, M-A-R-I-S. Not sure he wanted to do it, but a lot of people back then did it to Americanize their name more. The family moved down a little bit, eventually settled down in Fargo, North Dakota, where Maris took up both baseball and football at Chanelli Deacons High School. Now we know he would go on to be a great baseball player, but he was actually not too bad at football as well. In fact, the game in 1951, scored 4 touchdowns on a return, a record for that school that still stands today. Now how he did it, he had 2 kick returns, 1 punt return, and 1 return touchdown from an interception. So he had some fast feet. Kind of explains the Gold Glove. Now he got his first taste of professional baseball in 1953 for one of the Cleveland Indian farm teams, the Fargo Moorhead Twins, in which he won the Rookie of the Year award in the Northern League. Now he spent 4 years in the minors, racking up 78 home runs with a .303 batting average. The Cleveland Indians finally brought him up to the big club, starting his first game on April 16th, 1957, and just 2 days later hit his first career home run, a grand slam. Not too shabby, kind of reminds me of Hideki Matsui. And he would finish his rookie season with 14 home runs. But his stay in Cleveland wasn't that long, and I guess when you're a good player, other teams want you. So June of the following year, in '58, he was actually traded to the Kansas City Athletics, because before they went to Oakland, they were the Kansas City Athletics. But in 99 games, he hit 19 home runs. And the following year, 1959, Maris kept producing for the Athletics, hitting 16 home runs in 122 games. But unfortunately, his season was cut short. He missed the last 45 games of the season because he needed surgery to have his appendix removed. That was always sort of a running joke, a gag, or rumor that the Kansas City Athletics organization was sort of like the major farm team for the New York Yankees organization in terms of they always send their best players to the Yankees. Whether it's true or not, who knows? And who knows what shenanigans happened back the day with suitcases on the table. But whatever the case may be, December of '59, Roger Maris does become a Yankee in a trade that involves Don Lawson and the hero from the 1956 World Series throwing the no-hitter, and Hank Bauer being sent to KC. So now 1960, he's a New York Yankee finally. What does he do in his first game? A single, a double, and 2 home runs. Decent start. And his first season as a Yankee was a major success. Yes, he was selected to the All-Star team, but finished with 39 home runs, was selected to his first MVP, not too bad to make a good first impression, and won a Gold Glove in right field. So I think the Yankees made a good decision in that trade. Now, what happens, unfortunately, in 1960, yes, the Yankees get to the World Series, but they play the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is one of the biggest upsets in terms of World Series history. I mean, the Yankees, in the games they won, they absolutely slaughtered them, but unfortunately, the Yankees did lose, the walk-off home run in Pittsburgh by Bill Mazeroski, one of the worst moments in Yankees history, and supposedly made Mickey Mantle cry, according to the Bronx Tale. So I just feel that, yes, Maris had this great season, an MVP season, but the entire season as a whole was sort of tainted by losing to the Pirates that unfortunately kind of hurts, people not, giving Maris his due for the, winning the MVP. But it was 1961 when Maris had his season for the ages. Now, before the season even started, the American League added 2 teams. So now you have the Washington Senators as well as the Los Angeles Angels before they changed their name like a million times. Now, what happened was to get players to play for both teams, they had a draft. Similar to what happened back with the Rockies and the Marlins back in '93. But the difference was that these teams were restricted to only take players from the American League. So instead of getting good players from the National League, they ended up getting like watered down AAA players from the American League, and that's why those 2 teams are pretty much horrible at the start, especially the Senators. I mean, it was almost like an automatic win when you go play them. So the season ended, of course, now that you have the additional teams in terms of the scheduling balance, they had added more games to the season. So up to that point, it used to only be 154 games for a season. Now it's 162. And now 61, as we know, this is the record. This is the year when Maris hit the 61 home runs, so it's breaking the record. But the problem with that is that the Ruth record that stood for 37 years before that was within 154 games. So in terms of Maris, for him to be able to break the record, he had to do it in 154 games. He ended up doing 162. So that was that whole issue: was did he really break the record? And the whole thing with 61 and the asterisk had to do with that. So them adding teams as well as increasing the number of games of that season. Now, not only did Maris have a good season in '61, but the Yankees themselves had a second coming of the murderer's row. Mantle's also crushing home runs, and the two of them sort of competing for that record. Now, everyone was sort of pulling for Mantle in terms of the fans, the media. I mean, Maris was sort of like the outsider. He's not the real Yankee. Kind of what would happen today if sort of like Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton had like a home run contest going on, everyone would pull for Judge. So unfortunately, Maris was in that situation. He was like sort of the bad guy. Kind of stressful on him. I don't know if you've seen the Billy Crystal movie '61. He had like chunks of hair coming out of him. There was a lot of stress on him because everyone was sort of pulling for Mantle. And in terms of the old guard, I mean, a lot of the old timers and stuff didn't want to see Ruth's record to be broken. So to have someone break it almost like makes that person a villain. And to make matters even worse, the commissioner, Frank Frick, even announced, and he was an old friend of Ruth's, that if he did break the record, but if he did it in 162 games and not 154, that they would put a little asterisk next to the number. So kind of like almost just really sticking it to Maris in that way. Now what happened with Mantle, unfortunately, he did have a great season, but he finished with 54 home runs, but he actually had a hip infection. What happened is he wanted to get a flu shot, so he got a flu shot here. We don't really know the full story, but this is the story we're being told. He got a flu shot, ended up in an infection, and because of the infection, he missed the rest of the season. Now, the Yankees would go on to crush the Cincinnati Reds in the 1961 World Series. They didn't need Mantle for that, but the big story of the year was Roger Maris. But now, with Mantle out of the picture, the goal, it was right there for Maris for the taking. But unfortunately, Maris fell a little short. After 154 games, only had 59 home runs. So at that point, Ruth's record was intact. Of course, all the old guard was happy. And at this point, kind of the steam was taken out of the whole thing. The whole idea was to do it in 154 games. So yeah, there's a few more games left in the season, but kind of everyone was sort of out of it. So yes, Maris did break the record on the last game of the season. He did finish with 61 home runs, but the fans weren't into it. There was only about 23,000 people in the stands. And again, also it's September baseball, so everyone's kind of out of it a little bit until the playoffs start. But for a big moment like that, to only have 23,000 fans in the stands, like, kind of really disappointing. So he finished the '61 season with 61 home runs, breaking the record. Of course, the little asterisk thing next, and he do it 154 games. The Yankees went to win the World Series, and of course, he collected his second MVP. But still, the fact that he didn't do it in 154 games, just kind of put a whole little dark cloud over the thing. And the M&M boys were back in the '62 World Series, this time against the San Francisco Giants. Of course, didn't come close to breaking any home run records at that time, but at least finally collecting the second championship. But in that '62 World Series, Game 7, now the Yankees were on the road in San Francisco, bottom of the ninth. Now the Yankees are only up 1-0. Now Matty Alou was on first base. Obviously the Yankees are trying to close the game out. Now Willie Mays hits a double to right field. Now Matty Alou is a really fast guy. He's flying, but Maris, is always that good defender, throws the ball in, cuts off Alou from scoring, so keeps the score at 1-0. Now after that, Willie McCovey gets up, one of the most feared hitter in baseball, but he lines out to Bobby Richardson for the last out, and the Yankees go on to win by the skin of their teeth in Game 7, winning 1-0 on the road. But see, everyone always talks about the Willie McCovey lining out to Bobby Richardson, gives the Bobby Richardson credit. The play before that of Maris throwing the ball in, the cutoff from Alou from scoring, was really the highlight. But again, Maris overlooked. But unfortunately, 1963 was kind of the beginning and end of not only the glorious Yankees of the 50s and early 60s, but this Maris himself started to break down. Only played 90 games. Now he did hit 23 home runs, which is respectable in those days. But the Yankees did lose to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series, and it was this kind of a decline. They'll still get to the World Series again next year, but those great glory days of the Yankees in the 50s and early 60s, at that point, were gone. Now Maris bounced back a little bit in '64, playing 141 games, hitting 26 home runs, and the Yankees did get back to the World Series. It was actually a really classic World Series, but unfortunately the Yankees lost in 7 games, and that would be at least the last appearance in terms of the Yankees making the World Series for a long while. And then Maris really started breaking down. I mean, over the next 2 years, playing only 46 games in '65 and 119 games in '66. And if you combine those 2 seasons, 21 home runs and only 70 RBIs, which, for a guy who once again hit 61 home runs in one season, was really sad to see. And with the close of the 1966 season came the close of Maris's career with the Yankees. But he would still have a little bit more baseball left in him. He was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals, where he actually won another championship, his third, in 1967, and in there actually had his best hitting World Series ever, even when he was with the Yankees, batting .385 with 1 home run and 7 RBIs. And his final season was 1968 with the Cardinals, and getting to the World Series yet again, going against the Detroit Tigers. Fortunately, they fell short, they lost, and that was kind of it for Maris in terms of a player. Now, his 2 seasons in St. Louis, I mean, combined, he had 100 RBIs, so in that terms are respectable, but in both seasons only had 14 home runs to show for it. So again, this is the person who hit 61 home runs in the season, So that meant the power was gone with him. Always a good hitter, but again, the power zapped him. And, as we'll get into a little later on, it's pretty much what kept him out of getting into the Hall of Fame. And he was done with baseball. He retired down to Gainesville, Florida, where he got into the beer distribution business. Even got into partnership with the Anheuser-Busch people. And, he stuck around the game as well. He was a coach for the Oak Hill High School baseball team. But Maris did get some bad news in 1983. He was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And 2 years, unfortunately, he would pass away at the age of 51 on December 14th, 1985. But at least for Roger, he just got a little glory before that. A year before, 1984, the Yankees did invite him back to Yankee Stadium, where they did officially retire his number 9, and they gave him a plaque in Monument Park. Now you might say, well, 3-time champions, 2-time MVP, the Yankees, the single home run record for a number of years before, it got broken by McGwire. How's he not in the Hall of Fame? Well, the problem with Maris is that his career was kind of short, only played 12 seasons, and it's like he had a fantastic 4 or 5 year run that was amazing. But if you look at his numbers overall, in terms of career batting average, only 260. You kind of have to be hovering around 300 to get in. In terms of his career hits, only 1,300. You kind of have to be around 3,000 hits for when he gave in. And in terms of career home runs, only 275. And again, if you're more close to the 500, you got a better shot. So he's not really near those traditional plateaus. So yes, he has all these awards and all these accolades, and again, part of so many great moments and stuff like that. But in terms of his numbers themselves, don't qualify him enough to be a Hall of Famer. Now they have these veterans committees, these Golden Age committees, kind of how Harold Baines got voted in last year. So maybe at some point, he will be voted into the Hall of Fame. But for now, he's on the outside. Now, Maris's single-season home run record lasted for 37 seasons until it was broken in 1998 by Mark McGwire. But interestingly, in that year, he had Sosa also on his heels, similar to the Eminem boys did in '61. He had Sosa and McGwire in '98. Now, Sosa himself, no schlub, he finished with 66, so technically he also broke the record. But it is a little fishy that now you had these two guys breaking the record, in the same year. So you had this record that lasted for 37 seasons, so these two guys break it in one season. Now, the following year, 1999, they also broke the record technically. Not as good as the year before, but McGwire finished with 65 and Sosa finished with 63. So it's this little fishy that all of a sudden now players, breaking the record so easily. Oh wait, no, it gets even better. A couple seasons later, 3 seasons later, Barry Bonds, who at that point didn't even look like a human being anymore, clubs 73 home runs, shattering the record. And at this point, it's just obvious, all the PED use, the steroid allegations, and to have the small cluster of players break the record, the 61 record so easily in a small number of years. And obviously, that's the reason why to this day McGwire is not in the Hall of Fame. That's why Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame, and Sosa certainly was never going to get in the Hall of Fame. Of the 3 of them, I think Barry Bonds, even though I think he used some substances, is a Hall of Fame type player. At some point, he might get in, but I just think it's because McGwire, they kind of they see them, they were probably very good, but using the stuff made them great. Barry Bonds is always a great player, just made himself super great. Again, but the year he hit the 73 home runs, he didn't look like a human being, he looked like some sort of monster. So unfortunately for them, they'll have to deal with that. But for a lot of people, it kind of makes you look back at Roger Maris a little bit more, and just he gets looks past a lot. But you know what? A lot of people consider him really, in terms of the single season home run record, the true home run king.